Barcelona first team is very strong this year, and I think they can achieve a lot. But it's true there's lots of games as well, and there'll be some opportunities for players like me to play in the first team this season.
I think Lionel Messi was born to play football.
Everyone knew we were going to be the best player in the world.
There's a version of Lionel Messi the world celebrates. Goals, trophies, stadiums erupting in noise.
I don't care where you're from. If you tell me that you love football and you don't love Lionel Messi, you have a problem.
Who's the best player of all time? Lionel Messi.
Lionel Messi.
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 Messi. Messi. Messi. Messi.
But that version isn't the whole story. Not even close. Because when the cameras turn off, something unexpected happens. The chaos disappears, the spotlight fades, and what's left behind is a life that feels almost quiet.
Lionel Messi. Oh, he's missed! It's the end of the dream for Leo Messi.
Ya estaba para mí la selección, ya se terminó.
So many big losses in a row.
You can't be the greatest if you don't win these tournaments.
Demostró que es too many frustrations already.
Will Messi stop his quest for the missing trophy?
No constant headlines, no loud displays of excess, just patterns, routines, and choices that don't fit the image of a global icon. But here's the question that changes everything.
I would say defending Messi one-on-one is not possible.
Here he is again. That's astonishing. Absolutely world class. Lionel Messi on the charge. Messi! Saved by Buffon. It's in. It's Luis Suarez.
Quería la 3, acá está la 3. Vica el Barça y Vica Cataluña.
Why would one of the most famous men on earth choose to live this way? What is he protecting or avoiding? And what does his private life reveal that the public never sees? The world has already decided who Lionel Messi is, a football genius, a record breaker.
The greatest players produce their greatest performances when they're needed.
And Messi. Career in support again, and Messi's there! Oh, Messi might be through again. It's Messi!
A quiet legend who lets his feet do the talking. But what if that image, calm, simple, almost predictable, is only the surface? What if the real story begins the moment the cameras turn away? Because unlike most global superstars, Messi doesn't invite you into his life. He doesn't flood your screen with noise.
We had decided that he will be the next coach of the first team of Football Club Barcelona. And at the same time, he said, remember, you know that with me as a coach, you will win everything. And it happened.
He doesn't constantly remind you how rich or powerful he is. Instead, he disappears. And that's exactly what makes his private life so difficult to understand and so intriguing. Start with something simple: visibility. In an era where athletes build entire empires by staying constantly in front of the camera, Messi does the opposite. His social media presence is controlled, minimal, and deliberate. You'll see family photos, occasional partnerships, moments of celebration, but never chaos, never oversharing. And that raises a question most people ignore: is this humility or strategy? Because staying private at that level isn't easy. It requires boundaries, discipline, a conscious decision to say no over and over again to opportunities that could bring even more attention, more money, more exposure. So why does he do it? To understand, you have to look at how his life is structured. Messi's world revolves around a tight inner circle: his wife, Antonella Roccuzzo, and their children. Unlike many celebrities who build expansive networks of influence, Messi's environment is intentionally small, familiar, controlled. You won't find constant headlines about parties, controversies, or dramatic lifestyle shifts. Instead, you'll find repetition, routine, stability. But here's where it gets interesting. Because stability at that level isn't accidental, it's engineered. Messi has spent most of his career in environments where variables are minimized. At FC Barcelona, he wasn't just a player. He was part of a system built around consistency, a club culture that prioritized continuity, structure, and long-term planning. And when that chapter ended, unexpectedly, his move to Paris Saint-Germain FC introduced something unfamiliar: disruption, new country, new language, new system. And for the first time in years, you could see it. Not in interviews, but in subtle shifts. Adaptation, adjustment. a break from the controlled environment he had maintained for so long. So what does that tell you? That Messi doesn't just prefer stability, he depends on it. And that dependence shapes everything. From where he lives to how he spends his time. Take his homes, for example. While many athletes invest in extravagant, constantly changing properties, Messi's real estate choices reflect something different. He owns a well-known mansion in Castelldefels, near Barcelona, a property designed not just for luxury, but for privacy. High walls, limited visibility, strategic location near the training ground, not a palace meant to impress the world, a space designed to keep the world out. Even his later moves to Paris and then to Inter Miami CF follow a similar pattern. Secure residences, family-oriented environments, locations that offer both exclusivity and control. But here's the question that starts to shift everything. Is Messi living simply? Or is he carefully protecting something? Because simplicity at that level is rarely as simple as it looks. Now let's talk about money, because this is where perception and reality begin to separate. Messi has earned hundreds of millions through contracts, bonuses, and endorsements. His long-standing deal with Adidas is one of the most valuable athlete partnerships in the world. Add sponsorships, business ventures, and licensing agreements, and his financial ecosystem becomes massive. But unlike others, he doesn't broadcast it. You won't constantly see supercars lined up for attention. You won't see dramatic displays of wealth designed to dominate headlines. Does that mean they don't exist? Or does it mean they're simply not the point? Because when you look closer, a different pattern emerges. Messi's spending appears focused, selective, and aligned with his lifestyle. Not designed to impress an audience, but to support a system. Properties that prioritize privacy, investments that align with long-term stability, partnerships that reinforce his image rather than distort it. It's quiet wealth. And quiet wealth often goes unnoticed until you start paying attention. Then there's time, arguably the most valuable asset he has. While many global figures divide their attention across multiple ventures, appearances, and public commitments, Messi's time allocation seems heavily concentrated. Training, family, recovery, minimal distractions. And that leads to a deeper question. What happens when someone chooses focus over expansion? Because in a world that rewards constant growth, Messi appears to prioritize preservation of energy, of identity, of control. He's not trying to be everywhere. He's trying to be exactly where he needs to be and nowhere else. And that mindset reflects in his personality as well. Reserved, observant, rarely reactive. You won't find long, controversial interviews. You won't see him engaging in public conflicts or dramatic narratives. Even in moments of pressure, his responses are measured, almost calculated, but not in a manipulative way, in a protective way, because when you operate at that level of fame, every word can be amplified, misinterpreted, weaponized. So the safest move is often silence. And Messi has mastered it, but silence creates mystery, and mystery creates questions. What does he think when the cameras aren't there? What does his daily life actually look like beyond the highlights? What choices has he made that we never see? And how have those choices shaped his career? Because here's the truth most people overlook. Privacy isn't the absence of a story. It's the presence of a story you're not allowed to see. And Messi's private life is full of those unseen layers. Even his friendships reflect this pattern. A close-knit group, long-term relationships, loyalty over expansion, no constant rotation of new faces, no need to prove relevance through association, just consistency. And consistency at that level is rare, because fame usually pulls people outward, toward more attention, more exposure, more visibility. But Messi seems to resist that pull, and that resistance might be the key to everything. Because while others are building larger public personas, Messi is reinforcing a private foundation, and foundations determine longevity. Think about it. How many global icons maintain peak performance for as long as he has? How many manage to avoid major controversies, distractions, or public breakdowns? How many stay relevant without constantly reinventing themselves? Very few. So maybe his private life isn't just a preference. Maybe it's a system designed to protect focus, maintain balance, and sustain excellence over time. And if that's true, Then everything starts to make more sense. The controlled visibility, the stable environment, the limited exposure. The quiet wealth. It's not randomness, it's design. But here's where the curiosity deepens, because if Messi has built such a carefully controlled life, one that prioritizes privacy, stability, and focus, then what happens when that control is challenged? What happens when circumstances force change? New leagues, new countries, new pressures. Does the system adapt or does it crack? And more importantly, what parts of his life remain completely hidden even now? Because in the next part, we're going to step even deeper into the layers most people never see. The daily routines, the inner circle dynamics, the emotional structure, and the decisions that quietly define how Lionel Messi really lives, not the version you see on the pitch, but the version that exists when everything else fades away. If you've followed closely, you've probably realized something by now. The story of Lionel Messi isn't built on what he shows the world, but on what he keeps away from it. And this is where his private life becomes even more revealing. Because once you strip away the trophies, the headlines, and the constant comparisons, you're left with something far more unusual for a global icon: structure without noise. Let's go deeper into what that actually looks like on a daily level. Messi's routine is not chaotic, not spontaneous, and definitely not driven by public demand. It's built around repetition. Training sessions that follow a strict rhythm, recovery protocols that are non-negotiable, time blocks that prioritize family over everything else once football responsibilities are complete. And here's the part most people underestimate. Routine at that level isn't boring. It's strategic, because when your performance is your currency, eliminating unpredictability becomes an advantage. Fewer variables, fewer distractions, more control. But that raises a question. Is Messi naturally this disciplined? Or did he build this structure because he had to? Think back to the beginning of his career. Moving from Argentina to Spain at a young age, facing physical challenges, adapting to a completely new environment at FC Barcelona. That kind of transition doesn't just shape a player, it shapes a mindset that values stability, familiarity, and control. And that mindset didn't disappear when he became successful. It evolved. Now let's talk about his inner circle, because this might be one of the most defining aspects of his private life. Unlike many celebrities who expand their networks as their fame grows, Messi's circle has remained remarkably consistent. His relationship with Antonella Roccuzzo goes back to childhood. His closest friends are often people who were part of his life long before global recognition. This isn't just loyalty, it's filtration. Because when your world becomes that big, keeping your circle small becomes a form of protection. It reduces noise, limits external influence, preserves identity. And identity at that level is everything. But here's something worth thinking about. Does keeping your circle small protect you, or does it isolate you? Choosing what not to show becomes a powerful decision. And Messi seems to understand that better than most. Now let's address something people are always curious about: his lifestyle. Yes, he owns luxury properties. Yes, he has access to cars, private travel, and elite experiences. But unlike the stereotypical image of billionaire-level living, his lifestyle doesn't revolve around display. It revolves around comfort, privacy. Even after moving to Inter Miami CF, his environment reflects this pattern: a secure, family-oriented setup. A lifestyle that blends exclusivity with normalcy. But here's the deeper question: what does normal even mean for someone like Messi? Because when you have unlimited access, choosing simplicity isn't limitation, it's intention. When Messi does speak, people listen. When he does share, people pay attention. When he does move, the world reacts. But departure from Barcelona, the adjustment period at Paris Saint-Germain FC, the transition to a new culture, new expectations, new pressures. And during those moments, you could see subtle cracks. Not dramatic, not chaotic, but human adaptation isn't always smooth, even for someone as controlled as Messi. And that's what makes his private life even more compelling. Because it's not perfect, it's managed. There's a difference. Perfection is an illusion. Management is a process, and Messi seems to have mastered that process over time. But here's the question that ties everything together. Is his private life the result of who he is? Or is it the reason he became who he is? Because when you look at the full picture, the routine, the inner circle, the controlled visibility, the intentional lifestyle, it doesn't just support his career, it explains it. A stable mind produces consistent performance, eliminates distraction, and all of that feeds into excellence. So maybe the reason Messi appears different from other global icons isn't just talent. Maybe it's structure. Maybe it's the quiet decisions no one sees, the boundaries no one talks about, the discipline that doesn't make headlines. And if that's true, what happens when someone chooses the opposite? What happens when success is built not on exposure, but on protection? And more importantly, could that be the real reason Lionel Messi has remained at the top for so long? Or is there still something deeper, something we haven't fully seen yet? Now it's your turn. Do you think Messi's quiet lifestyle is natural or carefully designed? Is his privacy a strength that protects his greatness, or a wall that hides the real story? And if you had his level of fame and wealth, would you live loudly or choose the same kind of silence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you see it. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more content that goes beyond the surface, make sure you like this video, share it with someone who thinks they know celebrities, and subscribe to CelebSpot for more cinematic deep dives into the lives people don't fully understand. Because here, we don't just show you who they are. We explore who they become when no one is watching.